Welcome into A to Z Sports Primetime on this Monday, March the 10th. Happy NFL legal tampering period to you, because all these deals get done, all these trades get made, everybody freaks the hell out, but free agency technically doesn't begin for 2 more days, kids. In the meantime, we do have some Titans transactions to discuss, and I think there's a couple of different ways that we can look at this. I've got insights and analysis to provide for you from a couple of people that, one, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers on the offensive line, and Ramon Foster, who sent me a couple of notes that I think it's important to share with you. Also talked to John Ledyard, who runs his scouting Substack and is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Talked to him about why. Basically, I sent John a text, said, why should I not hate this Dan Moore Jr. deal, the left tackle, who the Titans signed from the Pittsburgh Steelers? We've got a lot of things going on, a ton of stuff to dive into, and not the sexiest free agent acquisition class, but this year is not going to be the sugar rush. Dan Moore got a big deal, but beyond that, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how the Titans fill out the rest of this roster. A lot of eventful things in the NFL today, which we will also touch on, and we will go through, of course, the transactions that you made here and the work that you still have yet to do. We are always happy to have you guys involved in the program. We're even happier with you if you share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, wherever you spend your time. Denise says, hey, I made it. Well, it's good to see you, Denise. Thanks for stopping by. Germ says, do we plan on signing anybody else? Yes, free agency continues. Again, free agency has not technically begun, so this will be a process that takes you all the way up until rookie minicamp and OTAs and all these different things. You're going to be signing players and acquiring players. You're going to be putting players on the practice squad. Obviously, you'll be drafting players here in the not-too-distant future. Your roster is not done yet just because you didn't do a ton of stuff on the first day of free agency. And I know that's a tough thing after you experienced what I think Lucas appropriately called today on the radio show a sugar rush last year. Going to be a lot more vegetables. You like some kale? We're going to sprinkle that in too. And that's kind of the way that I'm, no pun intended, digesting what the Titans did in free agency today. We will get into these things together, share the broadcast around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, there is some one report out there that the Titans are one of the teams showing a level of interest in Russell Wilson. There's also a chance he goes back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is still in play as well. So we will work our way through these things throughout the course of the program. Share it around. You know how to do it. Share now to public if you're hanging out on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, hit the like button. We appreciate your participation as always. Ann says, my wife is here, Buck. Say hi to the best draft pick Rand Carthon ever made. Well, we appreciate. I would like to know your significant other's name, Ann, so I'm not just referring to her as Ann's wife. I feel that I should address her appropriately. But we're happy to have everybody in here, and it's always an interesting time. You could also, I'm sure your wife would start to ask you questions as to why you're spending so much time in a chat with the kind of programming that we're presenting on a regular basis if she's going to witness some of it, Ann. But, we'll try and soldier through these things together, and hopefully we keep her entertained. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at Zen Sports. Promo code ATOZTN. Get you in on all the action. Of course, they give you your no-danger first wager, zensports.com. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com for your information. And of course, Bart Durham Injury Law, you deserve to be paid. The experts at the Bart Durham Injury Law team are there to help you, whether it be automobile, accident needs, or personal injury law. BartDurham.com for more information. TrueMap Fitness in the Gulch is where you get your first workout free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. So here's what your free agent acquisitions look like so far. Dan Moore Jr., the left tackle from the Pittsburgh Steelers, 4 years, $82 million on this deal. It immediately means that he becomes the blindside protector for the Titans. Their plan is to have Dan Moore, who's 26 years old, young player, had his best season, this most recent season, timely, ahead of free agency. To his credit, he's earned a market value tackle contract. And while market value tackle contracts now look like $20 million a year for players that I would describe as league average, I would like more bang for the buck, but that's just what it is. You have to understand that the market is set. And once you get past the sticker shock, you can start to have a reasonable conversation about the actual football player. So that means Dan Moore left tackle. J.C. Latham now slides to right tackle. You've got Skoronski. At some point, Lloyd Cushenberry will come back, and your right guard TBD. But this immediately has to be a top 16 unit, a top half of the league unit with the amount of first-round draft picks that they've invested to, the amount of free agent dollars in Cushenberry and in Dan Moore that they've invested in. The risk is significant. It's a big deal. And it's not, he's a better player than Andre Dillard is, right? So you don't necessarily have to fear constantly that he's just going to crash out on you. This is somebody who's been durable. He's not great, but he's fine. And the way that I talked about it today on the radio show when we got the news of this deal live is initially I made a face like I smelled something bad. And then once I got over that initial reaction, I have just kept repeating to myself the mantra of better to be solid than to suck. And the Titans last year, the Titans offensive line for the last 4 years has sucked. Dan Moore is a solid player, and I'm going to give you some insights and analysis on him from Ramon Foster and John Ledyard here in just a second. The other acquisition that you made was Cody Barton, a 3-year deal for the off-ball linebacker who was coming in here to basically try and push Kenneth Murray out of a job. That was a bad contract last year. They should have never given it out, respectfully to the person who helped Ann, if I'm not mistaken, propose to her wife, Ran Carthon. Ran was not perfect, even though I think he did some things well. I think he did some things poorly. Kenneth Murray's contract is one thing that he did poorly. And you've got James Williams, who played a couple of defensive snaps, 7th-round pick, transition player. Curious to see what competition, if any, that provides. Cedric Gray is a 4th-round pick from a previous regime. They are clearly not satisfied with their linebacker room. Cody Barton gets the 3-year deal, $21 million, a high number for an off-ball linebacker, but they need help on the run defense. He's not great in pass coverage. You still need solutions there. I think in an ideal world, Cedric Gray would be your coverage linebacker, and you would have Cody Barton operating. Cody Barton or Kenneth Murray, if they can salvage Kenneth Murray, I guess there's no sense in outright giving up on him, even though last year he did not acquit himself well. I think that, again, durability is something that you note here. He was available for 38 of the 48 possible games he could have played since 2022. Cody Barton on a 3-year contract. The rest was retentions. Darrell Baker Jr., the corner. Of course, Morgan Cox, the ageless wonder, long snapper on a 1-year deal, and Andrew Rupsich on a 1-year deal as an offensive tackle / interior player who they're just looking for reserves at that point in time. So that's your free agent acquisitions, 2, and your retentions, 3. Obviously, the Titans are not done in free agency. Now, I'm going to give you some insights on your biggest ticket item here in just a second, right after I remind you. Well, first, I'll ask you, how would you grade the Titans free agent class on day 1? 2 players acquired, 3 players retained. Let me know in the comment section. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Online at tworiversford.com. Quality American-made Ford vehicles, award-winning customer service. I just had somebody compliment me today on my 2022 Ford Explorer that I got from Two Rivers. Sugar's about 2 years old at this point in time, but she's great because I take my vehicle to Two Rivers to get regular service. Their customer service cannot be beat. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. So, how would you grade the Titans free agency class? I see free agent acquisitions and retentions today. Steven is displeased. He says D+. I've got a B-. I got an F. I got a B. All right, there's some variation there. Marcus Sankey on YouTube says, wasn't sexy, but it's what we need. So, I've kind of come to terms with the Dan Moore deal because I don't love the contract, and I certainly am not in love with the player. And I'm not in love with the idea that a good organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers is willing to let a 26-year-old left tackle walk because they already have his replacement on the roster. Don't love that, but okay, whatever. Circumstances beyond my control. They needed tackle help. The right tackle class, not great. I would have preferred to have the Morgan Moses deal that he got in New England today. I'm nitpicking there, and I will probably reserve the right to do so throughout the course of the upcoming season to see how the Titans offensive line does and how the Patriots do, for example. They spent a shit ton of money today. Mike Vrabel and Ryan Cowden getting after it because they have the most available cap space, and you understand that. The Dan Moore contract, to me, solves two problems if it works. It solves your left tackle problem, and it solves your right tackle problem because now J.C. Latham, your first-round draft pick, can bump over to right where he played most recently in college. I thought J.C. was fine on the left side. I was okay with the idea of letting him continue to grow and develop. They clearly feel a certain type of way about this upcoming offensive line draft class. So they would dive into the free agent market that way. This is the going rate for the tackles. I'm not in love with it, but that's just where things are at right now. So that's your biggest ticket item, Dan Moore. And I want you to hear this analysis from John Ledyard, who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers on a day-to-day basis. He hosts a podcast called Yin's Nose Ball. He's a huge Steelers fan, and he's also an excellent NFL analyst, specifically a draft analyst, but he critiques, to put it kindly, the X's and O's of the Pittsburgh Steelers and their players as well. I want you to hear this analysis from John Ledyard, who was kind enough to text me a voice memo today.
Okay, so obviously I'm pretty low on the deal. Like a little bit of disbelief, I think. I would say he was horrible in 2023. Like after being like, maybe he was like okay before that at best. I'd say he was horrible in 2023. Like if they would have had any other option, they should have benched him. They really didn't because Chukes Okorafor fell out of favor and they didn't want to go back to him. They like hated his guts after that. So they really didn't have any other choice. I think he might have been benched. Then he was still under this super cheap contract. So they hoped he would lose his job the next year to Broderick and Fautanu. Broderick played so bad that they actually Moore was in line to start with Fautanu, and then Fautanu got hurt, and it was Jones and Moore. And Moore was actually decent for the first half of the year, and the second half looked more like he did the year before. So I was kind of like, please bench this guy in 2023. And then 2024, I was like, actually, I might eat my words a little bit. He's been fine. And then toward the end of the year, he was bad again. He was getting cooked. I mean, this offense protects their line too, a good amount. Like they stay out of the straight drop back game, tons of play action. They try to run the ball all the time. Like, it doesn't actually help the passing game, but it does like help the offensive lineman, I think. Like not having to be on an island all the time, especially at tackle. They match protect a lot. And even then, he still got beat a decent amount. And if he goes one-on-one against top guys, he's just toast. Like Garrett, Hendrickson have both just wrecked him for years and years. And I mean, Garrett has done just outlandish things to him, even if the sack numbers haven't always been crazy. I've like done film reviews on it and just been like, yeah, he just has no chance against top guys one-on-one. Mediocre guys, smaller guys, sure, but like he just has no like great traits. Like he's like an okay athlete, and he's just not that big or strong. I think he's gotten about as far as technique can take him, but he gets walked back. He gets beat on his edge a lot. His hands get beat a lot. And then just if he has to, straight set more often, if he has to true pass set more often, I think it's going to be really unfortunate for the offense. So he is a really good dude. He works really hard. Like I think, from that perspective, people are, he's young. Maybe people think he needs to keep getting better. Duke and those guys like all think that his best ball could be ahead of him, and they say that about every offensive lineman. So I don't know. I mean, I like his mental makeup, but he just hasn't. Like I would have considered him even at his best last year, maybe an average starter. So yeah, just to pay that amount. I mean, after they had three of the worst contracts. I mean, Christian Berry's been fine, but the three big contracts they gave out last year in free agency and just the amount of guaranteed money, and then you hire a new GM and you think it's going to be done different. But I mean, even to get a competent left tackle so you can move J.C. Latham. I'm not saying there won't be like any upgrade, but just the cost is just crazy. Okay, so obviously I'm
All
pretty
right.
low.
So it doesn't help that he sounds like he's, in a hostage situation or in a bunker somewhere. That's my buddy John Ledyard, who scouts and dissects Pittsburgh Steelers film on a regular basis. Again, the podcast is called Yin's Nose Ball. And that was in response to a text I sent him. Hey, give me a reason to not hate the Dan Moore deal. And he goes into all that. A to Z Sports Prime. You guys think I'm bad. A to Z Sports Prime Time is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed from the Ashton Real Estate Group. GaryAshton.com, the official real estate agency of me and the Nashville Predators. So, Ledyard not a fan, low on the deal. Now, point counterpoint, okay? Because that's one person's opinion. I also happen to know and be close friends with, humble brag, a former Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lineman of 11 years. Maybe that plays into some biases, but Ramon Foster, who was on vacation, was very kind enough to text me way too much information on Dan Moore. So I asked Ramon, sorry to bother, but could you give me a couple bullet points on same question. Why should I not hate this Dan Moore deal? And Ramon took a different approach. So you heard Ledyard's analysis. Now I'll read you Ramon's. So here's why I like Dan. First thing, market was set because he's a free agent. Okay, get past the money, get past the money. It's tough to get past the money, but that's what it costs. All right. He had multiple teams buying for him, so that's what drove the number up. The market sets that. Can't fault the player. I don't. Dan is recently 26. Most offensive line best years are from years 4 to 9. He's at that spot. He's been consistently available, hardly misses a snap. Pass pro is his specialty. Obviously, they're trying to get more efficient in their passing game and less, catastrophic in their drop back game. But he's built a lot on and has gotten better at his run blocking. The sacks attached to him are a result of Russ and Justin this past year moving the pocket. Those two dudes accumulate a lot of sacks in any system. The tape shows that. Okay, that makes me feel better. This was the only year Myles Garrett has ever gotten him, he says. Ramon, which runs counter to what Ledyard says. It's been known in Pittsburgh for a long time that Myles doesn't do well against him. Snow game, he got him, and later in the season, Dan was dealing with an injury, missed time because of it. Last couple of years, Pittsburgh has been drafting first-round tackles, Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano, and he's consistently held Broderick Jones off. Didn't even shun him when most vets would be dicks about it. BJ has come out numerous times praising Dan Moore for taking him under his wing and trying to coach him up. Great locker room guy, which I also heard because I've got other friends who work for the Steelers, and the first text that I got from one of them was, guy's a great guy. Dan Moore's a great guy, which, all right, that's fine. I'll take that too. Good locker room guys, always welcome. He will be great for JC and Peter too on the left side. You also solved two problems, which I brought up earlier. The idea of solving right tackle and left tackle with this Dan Moore contract. He will have a moment or two, but he's not getting dogged at all. He hardly gets help in pass protection, and that's been against Myles, Hendrickson, or Baltimore pass rushers. Simply gets the job done. Yeah, you don't know his name, but I've been following him and covering him with my podcast. He's always there, and you know what you're getting from him weekly. I don't worry about him on an island, which is an important note, again, from a former Steelers offensive lineman. And then he provided me some additional numbers. Again, he's 26. If Bill Callahan is as good as he says he is, he should get better because Pat Meyer in Pittsburgh is somebody who may not be the same caliber of Bill Callahan. Ramon gets into some details there that, perhaps all of that wasn't for air. But either way, so Bill Callahan should help, right? In theory, at some point, O-line Jesus is going to come and deliver you from the evils of Dennis Daly, Andre Dillard, Isaiah Wilson, Dylan Radins, all of it, right? This is your opportunity. This is their first opportunity to remake the offensive line in the image that they feel like gives them the best chance to succeed. So it may not be top 5. He may not be the best left tackle, but he's better than what you had. I mean, he's not better than J.C. Latham was last year. And J.C. Latham was also hugely available, but He helps you solve the right tackle problem. JC is immediately better than anything you had or could draft, to be completely honest with you. So that part of it I get. All right, so you shuffle some parts, and now Dan Moore is going to be the left tackle. Again, not the best guy in the world, but makes you better. David Lee says Radens is okay for who we drafted. No, he's a former second-round pick. He just became a full-time starter last year because they were just simply out of bodies, and even then, I do not think that he acquitted himself overwhelmingly well. Do not sink your standards. Again, a second-round pick. That's nonsense. That's complete and total. That's batshit crazy. The fact that maybe you guys were just that down bad, and we're still awaiting, news of a quarterback. Zach Wilson to the Dolphins. Thank you. Says Ryan, yeah, that's something that we talked about yesterday, the potential of Zach Wilson or Mac Jones. Mac Jones, I think, is still a realistic option. I think, by the way, that if you go that route, that doesn't stop you from drafting a quarterback number 1 overall, which is what a lot of you want. So we will see how that plays itself out at this point in time, and we'll keep you updated with more deals that become available as we work our way through here on the primetime evening. So recently, Joseph Asai is back with the Bengals, 1 year, $7 million, a pass rusher for them. Let's see. Jake Hansen gets a $1.7 million deal with the Texans. Giants signed CJ Board. James Hudson going to the Giants as well, an offensive lineman. So New York getting into the game on that. There has not been any additional Titans news right now, but we will try and keep you updated with the latest as more deals become available. Aw Shucks says, any merit to the Russell Wilson rumors? So Connor Hughes, who covers the Jets, reported that the Titans were one of the teams that were at least remotely interested, somewhat interested. Well, let's talk about that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program made possible by Bart Durham Injury Law. You deserve to be paid if you've been in an automobile accident, and the great team at Bart Durham Injury Law is there to help you. You can get your free consultation now online at bartdurham.com. You can find out more about their firm, about their case results, and about their areas of practice. You can go online and get the process started today because you need the results that you deserve. And they have over 75 years of experience helping people like you who have dealt with automobile accidents or personal injury. BartDurham.com for more information today. All right, so Connor Hughes, who's, I think, a very adept NFL insider. I think Connor Hughes does a great job covering the Jets. He also provides some league-wide nuggets occasionally. He reported today that the Titans were one of the teams with at least a remote level of interest in Russell Wilson. Full disclosure, I had not heard that on my end. Doesn't mean that it can't be real. I don't, the last thing that I heard as far as the veteran free agent market, there are 3 things that I heard at any point throughout the course of the last, basically since the season ended. So like the last 2 months, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, don't entirely rule out a trade for Kirk Cousins, though that would be a far off scenario. But it was presented to me essentially like keep an open mind because they aren't super active in the veteran quarterback market, i.e. Sam Darnold. Don't expect them to go after Aaron Rodgers, which I think we all kind of understood, but worth reiterating. Zach Wilson now obviously with the Miami Dolphins, so that takes him off the table, and you still do have options. Daniel Jones is out there. I haven't heard anything specifically about Daniel Jones of the Titans, but he remains out there. You have Jacoby Brissett, who I know some people have linked to the Titans previously. I know Titans fans wouldn't be overwhelmingly excited about that. There's 40-year-old Joe Flacco. There are different kinds of options out there to be had, but those are the 3 names that I had heard more often than anybody else. And Mason Rudolph, by the way, is still out there. Mason Rudolph could end up coming back for all we know. And again, that would not stop them, theoretically, from drafting a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. So that's kind of where we're at with that right now. So how would you grade this free agent class? On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, the grade that you would give it. Oh, okay. Megan is the name of Ann's wife. So, they got married in Chicago. That's beautiful. I'm pretty sure I took, not my wedding, obviously, but I'm pretty sure I took pictures at as a part of a, what do they call them? Groomsmen pictures at that very same spot on the riverfront. That's right by Trump Tower. I can't remember the name of the hotel they got married at, but it's right there as well. Anyway, very cool. Nice picture. Thanks for sending that. Anyway, so with everything that you've got out there, it's not the best options, right? David Lee says we might as well bring Tannehill back. If I was Tannehill, I would hit decline so fast on that damn call because obviously they have not rectified yet. We'll see the offensive line situation. And and also you guys didn't treat him very well. Like, I know that shit maybe doesn't matter. The money matters more than anything. And a lot of guys get a lot of hate on social media for performance and stuff like that. But if I was Tannehill, I'd tell you guys to kick rocks, man. I know that he blew it. Like he blew it in that Bengals game, but the way that you guys treated him afterwards, this is the second most successful quarterback in the Titans era. Maybe you discount that because the Titans have not been very good historically across their history, or not historically across their history. They haven't been very good as a franchise. They've only been in the Titans era for 26. I guess this is going to be 27 years. But Ocho says Tannehill chilling in Florida. No, he's not. He's here. His kids are still in school here. I know this. In fact, I know that he plays golf with Ben Jones and Ryan Suckup, and I think Brett Kern from time to time on a fairly frequent basis because, a lot of guys have kids in school systems and don't want to pick up and uproot their family at different points in life. So as far as I know, I understand they travel a lot, but yeah, he's here. I definitely would not. I definitely would not pick up your call if I was Ryan Tannehill. How didn't they treat him well? They gave that bum a chance, says Boss Man Jam. Well, exactly that. Again, that bum is the second most successful quarterback in the history of your franchise that does deserve a degree of respect. He choked like a dog in the Bengals playoff game. I know. I was there. I covered it. I covered Ryan Tannehill's entire career here, but he is the second most successful quarterback in your franchise's history. And I don't think there is proper respect given to that player, even understanding that he was with a lot of great players that helped elevate that Titans team along with him. He was a big part of it. He was a critical part of it. Arguably, he was the most important part of it because famously, you remember how that 2019 season with Marcus Mariota was going. And says, ignoring Warren Moon, Warren Moon is not a part of the Titans era. Warren Moon is Houston Oilers, so he does not count. It is Steve McNair. It is Ryan Tannehill. That's the list at this point in time. I don't want to relitigate. Slayer's Chicken Leg says, Buck, you talked just as much about Tannehill. Yeah, I didn't call him a bum. Yeah, I was critical of his performances. I covered bad Tannehill games. I covered good Tannehill games, but I never called him a bum. He's the second most successful quarterback in the Titans era of your franchise's history, because Ann points out that I said franchise history, then I apologize, in the Titans era of franchise history. So that's what it is right now on the free agent market, and it's not great. You're going to sign a quarterback in free agency. It just will tell us a little bit more about how they plan to move forward in this NFL draft. I honestly don't think we learned that much today about them, other than we learned that they're going veggies. They're no sugar rush this year for the Tennessee Titans. It's veggies at this point in time. I think that there are a lot of different ways that you can look at the Titans and grade their free agent acquisitions today. I would say a C-, with the two deals that they gave out, with the three players that they retained. Cody Barton, fine. Kenneth Murray's not a good player. Find a replacement for him. Dan Moore Jr., fine. The contract looks big. It is big. He's tied for the 8th most money on an average annual basis among tackles. It's a lot of money. I get that. He's not a great player. He's a fine player. But fine is an upgrade for you because your right tackle situation, which now J.C. Latham will occupy, and Dan Moore will hold down the left side of the offensive line. If you can get to fine, maybe you can get to league average. And if you can get to league average, I think you can start to at least start to figure out this offense. Chosen says, Buck, tell us why Traylon Burks hasn't been cut yet. Why would they cut Traylon Burks? That's a guaranteed contract. They have 3 wide receivers under contract on the roster. It's Calvin Ridley, Traylon Burks, and Jaquan Jackson. You're not going to cut Traylon Burks. Why on earth would you cut Traylon Burks? The worst thing that you could do is make the Traylon Burks thing worse by eating guaranteed money that you've already paid. That's crazy. That's not even a conversation point. That's not happening. He's not going to get cut. Unless he's just a total POS, but there's nothing to indicate. I think he might be a little lackadaisical, we'll call it, but he's not, he's not a piece of shit or anything like that. And plenty of shitty football players last longer than they should because they're talented. Now, Traylon Burks, obviously, talent does not make up for it at this point in time, but he's certainly not a problem big enough to eat more money on. He's horrible, WTF. That's fine. Put him on special teams. I don't care. Just don't cost yourself more money to cut him. That doesn't make any damn sense at all. At all. That's like cutting Will Levis. You're just going to pay more money to make Will Levis go away. Maybe you guys hate them that much that you would consider it, but that's not a way that an NFL franchise can operate. Brandon Taylor says, are you trying to call him soft without calling him soft? By calling him lackadaisical, Traylon, I don't know. I think that the conditioning thing is a problem, and I would like for that to be rectified. And I just don't think that he's got it. I don't think he has an edge. I don't necessarily think that, like, he's a football player, right? And whatever it means that he goes out hog hunting in Arkansas. Like, I don't think that that's a soft human being. I just don't think he's a good football player. I don't think he's a good NFL football player. He played in the SEC. I don't think he's soft, right? But I don't think he's got edge. I don't think he's got competitive drive the way that I would like for him to. And I think that his body has let him down a great deal, which is a bad combination to have. So that's where it's at. We don't have to talk about Traylon Burks at this point in time. What about Shedeur? Yeah, Shedur's top 30 or 30 visit. They don't like it when you call it top 30 visits for some reason. Shedur's 30 visit was today. Didn't sound like there was anything necessarily bad out of it. There's obviously a lot of things going on. I wonder who was even there to participate in that, because Chad Brinker was negotiating contracts today, which is a part of his job. I think that might have surprised some people, but that is a part of the scope of his responsibility if you see how the division of labor is broken down. So Brinker negotiated the Dan Moore contract. Perhaps Borgonzi and Callahan were showing Shedeur the building. I haven't seen a ton of information come out about that just yet. Obviously, we've been caught up in free agency, but nothing bad has come out of it. No glaring red flags at this point in time. Nothing is said about Levis. Nothing has been said Levis will be traded. Yeah, I have no idea whether Levis is going to be traded or not. I'm sure they'll try. I know Levis's camp would certainly like to see him in a better landing spot, because they don't think that he necessarily got the fairest shake here. You can disagree with that. You are welcome to disagree with that. I think that they are in a position. I think that they're in a position to really. I don't know. I think they're probably going to be bad again in 2025. I think this is kind of continuing to feed that narrative. But they're going to get some things done in this offseason. I'm curious to see how the rest of the week goes. I don't expect them to be super spend heavy. Javon Holland is a name to keep an eye on. Like I said, Mac Jones is a name to keep an eye on. We'll see how real that interest gets if that ends up manifesting in the veteran quarterback market. I think that there are a lot of different things that you can. I think that there's a lot of different things that you can assume about the direction that the Titans are heading. But I'm gonna wait until I have more of a full picture. The grade that I would give them, though, is a C-. It's just what it is. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be fun. It's probably not going to be a lot of fun this football season. But as long as it gets better, it doesn't have to be the best thing in the world. As long as there's clear and obvious progress shown. Cannon wants to know, how much cap space do we have? We can't really answer that question right now until we have the details of how the year-over-year cap hits are distributed, because, for example, Dan Moore's making $20.5 million a year. He's not going to make his cap hit's not going to be $20.5 million. this year. Fair to expect. It would probably be lower to give themselves some more wiggle room. So until we have the specific cap hits, I can't answer how much cap space you have left out there. Chosen says we're headed for dark times. I don't know. Your last 3 years have been dark times. I think that you're just probably in for more growing pains. And as she adds, nope, we will be 5-12. Yeah, well, guess what? 5-12 is an improvement, and I hate that because I don't want to spend my time doing that either. But it's what it is. That's the process to rebuild a roster, and your roster has been down bad tremendously for a long, long time. All right. So, with everything that you've got left, who had your favorite signing of the day? Who did the best work in free agency so far to date? Obviously, these things will continue as deals continue to come down here throughout the course of the evening. They will pick back up again tomorrow. Which team had your favorite signing, or who was the favorite signing that you had of a player to a specific team? We can talk about it together right after I remind you that TrueMap Fitness in the Gulch is there for your first workout free. They're also there to provide you a great options or a great number of options, whether it's group fitness classes, personal training, or a membership for you to work out as you please. TrueMap Fitness is there to help you accomplish your fitness goals. TrueMapFitness.com for more information. Okay, so favorite signing that you had today. Doesn't have to be Titans related. Obviously, there's not a ton to get excited about with the Titans. Denise says the Texans trading Laramie Tunsil. Yeah, how about that? Laramie Tunsil getting traded today for a haul of draft picks, allegedly. So we'll see what Houston. I didn't end up seeing how many of the or what the total haul of draft picks were. Here's an additional update, though, on the front of Russell Wilson to the Titans. Charles Robinson adds this. Got the sense the Titans don't have a strong Russell Wilson interest. I think his market beyond Giants is flat. Cam Ward is definitely still in play in Tennessee. That's a good note. And Browns aren't done at quarterback. They're going to throw several moves at it before it's all over. And I would expect the Titans to be in that position as well. Sam Darnold going to the Seahawks. At this point, Chosen says none of the Titans signings made me smile. Yeah, I get it. But, you guys just have to be realistic about this. They're going to suck for a while. It's just they were so bad. They are the worst team in football. It's going to take some time to get them right. And I know that you don't have to be patient with them if you don't want to. Nobody's making you. But they can't afford to rush through this thing either just because you want it to have a little more bang for your buck or to be a little sexier or whatever. It's what it is. Carrie B is the we suck tax even higher this year? Yeah, Carrie, because you sucked worse. 6-11 is the thing that was Mike Vrabel's bottoming out, 6-11, and then you got fired, and you were the worst. You were the worst team in football. You were 3-14, the number one overall pick. Yes, when you suck more, the we suck luxury tax costs more. Yeah, I hate that that's where you're at. I wish that I could be more excited for you, but I'm preparing for another rough football season, regardless of who's playing quarterback. Maybe Cam Ward comes to Tennessee and makes it a little more fun, but it's going to be tough for a while. All right, so favorite signings that I saw today. I really liked what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. I thought that they had a lot of good deals, and I think Tampa Bay just drafts well, develops well, and retains well, which is what you aspire to do.
There's a lot of guys who took less money to stay. I mean, Chris Godwin, I know we're talking about defensive tackles, but Chris Godwin, from my understanding, left about $20 million on the table.
Holy shit. Everybody hates moving, Rap. Everybody hates moving. Moving is the worst.
I haven't moved in 12 years, and I don't want to ever move again. Now, again, if you say to me, $20 million or move, I would say I could just hire someone to move for me. That's like a whole different conversation.
Overpay somebody? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But
20? Yeah, make it $19 million. I'm paying $1 million to some moving company, and they are going to be very thankful that they are going to do everything for me.
I mean, yeah, and they do a great job. They wrap everything up. It's not like you don't share a truck like you used to do when I moved. It's like you get your own truck. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I mean, look, it's pretty cool to see for Chris Godwin. Left a lot of money on the table. I know New England was in that pretty heavy, but if you like where you are and they tug at the heartstrings and they do everything they can to get you to stay, a lot of times it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Human relationships, and if you have any breaking news or have to do anything, you can certainly jump off and post through Shahab's Twitter account.
Well, I think it might be working now.
Well, it's every 5 minutes, this thing. I can't take it's almost worse that it's intermittently.
Yeah, Twitter went down today, like basically all day through free agency until we got. By the time we got done with the radio show, it was running up again. Apparently, Elon was alleging that there was a hack. That's always good. But anyway, this is the situation for the Titans. For the Bucks, I really like their acquisitions. They kept a lot of their good players. They did add Hassan Reddick, the pass rusher, and they added him for a pretty reasonable deal. I think he got 1 year, 14, which you feel pretty good about. 12 million guaranteed on that deal, if I'm not mistaken. So quality additions, quality retentions. Tampa Bay is just a solid football organization. I know Brady obviously set them over the top at the Super Bowl, but they had won championships prior to Brady's arrival, and they continue to be in the mix. And they can continue to keep themselves competitive in a division that, at least pushes them on a year in, year out basis. They may not be the best team in football next year, but I don't know. I like the way that Tampa Bay goes about roster construction. They always have quality football teams. So with that, normally we would do In Case You Missed It with Bert, but Bert's not feeling well. I think he is dealing with a variety of different things. He may have had too many cigarettes today during free agency to try and calm himself down for the fact that Twitter wasn't working. I think he was a bit frustrated by that. So Bert, we're giving him the night off. What I will provide to you for In Case You Missed It is this, an interesting deal that may also come into play as far as what the Titans might do at the quarterback situation. We'll get to that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the wonderful people at Zen Sports. Promo code ATOZTN. Get you in on all the action. College hoops, NBA, hockey, all available at your disposal. Baseball soon upon us, up to $100 on your no danger first wager using that promo code ATOZTN. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789 at Zen Sports. An interesting deal that didn't get a ton of attention because there was a bunch of bigger deals going on. Kenny Pickett got traded again.
I'll start with this. We have a quarterback trade. Sources say Kenny Pickett is headed to the Cleveland Browns in exchange for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR, and a fifth-round pick. This fifth-round pick originally from the Detroit Lions. And obviously, I'll take the Cleveland Browns part of this, Mike. It is a big opportunity for Kenny Pickett. They have Sean Watson, who's coming back from an injury and may not play at all in 2025. They have the number 2 overall pick. We'll see if they end up taking a quarterback there or what they end up doing. But certainly, this is an opportunity for Kenny Pickett, whether or not they draft a quarterback. He sounds like he's going to compete for the starting job. He will get the reps. Obviously, has plenty of starting experience from his time in Pittsburgh. Took a little bit of a break last year as the backup to Jalen Hurts, and now gets the chance again to be the starter. The Cleveland Browns swing a quarterback trade, which of course, Mike, takes a quarterback away from the Philadelphia Eagles. The switch with DTR. What does this mean for?
All right, so Kenny Pickett is obviously not going to stop the Browns from drafting a quarterback at 2, but sounds like they're going to throw a couple of different solutions at their quarterback problem to hedge their bets, because there's no guarantee. For example, if the Titans take Cam Ward at number 1 and the Browns aren't good enough with Shador to take him at 2, which, by the way, there was a report in The Athletic that said Shador could fall out of the first round like Will Levis did. Yeah, easy to say on March the 10th. That would be a huge fall, arguably a bigger fall than what Will Levis experienced, because there were at least 4 quarterbacks that were being discussed that year as first-round quarterbacks. 3 ultimately went in the first round. Levis went at the top of the second. I don't know if Shador is going to fall out of the first round. That would be crazy, given that there's really only 2 quarterbacks at the top of this draft. But, again, something to keep an eye on. I would love the idea of Shador Sanders at 35 as opposed to getting him with the number 1 overall pick or 2nd overall if you're the Cleveland Browns or what have you. But I guess only time will tell. Major Key says, why is that? How did he fall so bad? It's not just because of the interviews, right? Like, here's a part of the problem that guys like this experience when they represent themselves. Right or wrong, the NFL, and we don't have to get into the racially coded language around some of these guys. That's not necessarily my place to break down. We don't have to get into the dynamics of hiring practices in the league and how the league continues to try and broaden the horizons of people who are doing the hiring in the NFL. And that's also includes personnel acquisition, which is crazy to think about given the work places that these people occupy, that they would not be more open-minded to different personality types or different lifestyles. But he doesn't have an agent to soften some of this stuff. And whatever, maybe you think he shouldn't need an agent because what about Shedeur Sanders needs to be softened? I'm good with the personality. I'm not good with the player. I don't think he's a first-round draft pick in a normal year, but I think that he's good enough to make a team matter if he's on a good enough team. I don't think he is going to be the difference maker for a franchise that Cam Ward could potentially be. At least right now, he's certainly not that as a prospect. He doesn't project as that as a prospect. What either of them will be as NFL players, we don't know. But they don't have a buffer between the Deion Sanders, Shedeur Sanders experience and NFL organizations. And whatever agents are, and I have one of them, he's great. And I appreciate his presence because, just on obviously a much, much smaller level than tens of millions of dollars, I would probably have a much worse relationship with my bosses if I had to negotiate my own contracts too. So Shedeur being self-represented poses some of those problems. It creates some of those problems, some potential for those problems. You wish that NFL organizations would be more open-minded or would be, less put off by an NIL athlete, because that's just what it is. That's who these guys are at this point in time, especially the son of Deion Sanders. I'm really curious to see what happens with Shedeur. But, some teams don't seem to vibe with him. And that's too bad because I don't necessarily know that the vibe should stop you from taking a player unless the vibe is just horrendous and you can clearly tell that this is a bad person. Shedeur's not. He's just self-confident. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. All right. It's going to do it for us tonight. I would be shocked if there was any Russell Wilson Titan stuff. I don't think that's real. As we sit here tonight, I'm curious to see what happens with Mac Jones tomorrow or the following day or at some point this week. I think that's still a pretty significant possibility for the Titans. What other directions they might consider. All interesting. All I know is Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick, still very much in play. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Charles Davis will be on the radio show. We'll look forward to having him, and we will talk more about what the Titans do in free agency at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. See y'all.